What's up there, YouTube friends? Chetter here, back with another video. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you are doing well. I hope you have a great day. Thank you again for joining me. Today I'm making another tier list. This is a tier list video I've meant to make for a while. This is my M. Night Shyamalan movies tier list. So I do consider myself to be an M. Night Shyamalan fan, just because he's made some movies that I just really like. I know he's kind of a mixed bag in terms of directors. He's made movies that really encompass the whole scale, and that's what I thought it'd be fun to make a tier list. But there's some movies that I genuinely would like to talk about too. So I thought it'd be fun to make this M. Night Shyamalan tier list. So just some things for you to know is this is just my opinion. You're probably going to have a different opinion. You can always leave that below in the comments. I'm always like, I love movie discussion. I like hearing different opinions, different reasons why we have different favorites. So feel free to leave that below. If you think I did a bad job in any way, the best way to let me know is to like and subscribe to my channel. That does communicate to me that I did a bad job and that I need to keep, making these videos. So yeah, just like and subscribe. It's pretty easy to do. Just do that. Just do it. But jokes aside, I'm ready to dive into this tier list. I do want to go over my tier list house rules, which is just my funny name for defining the tier list. If it's an F tier, I think it's a skip. Basically, these movies I don't like. I want to turn them off, or basically don't want to watch them. D tier, I don't think these movies are necessarily bad, but I think they're lacking. I basically think they're lacking, right? I think they have some potential, but they don't even, I wouldn't even give them a passing grade. They may have some scenes I like, but that's about it. C tier is a passing grade, but I also wouldn't recommend the movie. I think the movie is just okay. It's good. It gets passing grade, but I'm not going to brag about it. I'm not really going to go out of my way to watch the movie either. That is for B tier. B tier are movies that I think are good, but I'll recommend and I'll go out of my way to watch these movies. A tier is when we get into movies that I love. These are movies that I will just love going through. I'm happy to rewatch them. And then S tier are movies that I think are special and that we should just basically stop talking about and just go watch the movie right now. So that's just, my scale. I use three main criteria because I feel like all movie discussion can kind of boil down to these three elements: is how much did I enjoy the movie, how much would I rewatch the movie, or how likely am I to rewatch it? Would I be happy rewatching it? And then three, how likely do I recommend the movie? How recommendable is it? Do I think it's worth your time? Because I always have a very consumer lens when I go into movies. I feel like movies can take up a lot of our time, and if you're going to sit down and sacrifice, an hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours of your time, it's we need to be a little picky, right? And just kind of, that's just my site too. So I want to make sure I'm recommending stuff that I think is worth your time. Also, the movies are shown in a chronological order, but I will be going through this tier list in a least favorite to most favorite. So keep that in mind too. That should allow for some surprises. And I'll even let you guess what movie is going to be, next. We'll play a game with it, right? So I'm ready to dive into the tier list. I hope you're ready. Let's get going in. What do you think my least favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie is? We've got quite a few here. I believe it's 16 movies he's made at this point. So our boy's getting up there. Anyway, my least favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie, for me, it's an easy guess. If I was you, I'd guess this one first. But it is The Last Airbender. That's right, The Last Airbender. Where is it going? No other than F tier, where it belongs, man. This movie is agony, dude. This movie sucks. This is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I remember I went into the movie theater. I saw this in the theater. I went in, a fan of the show, thinking I was going to see like a dumb movie. I just want to see my characters on screen. I didn't think that it was going to be good. I went in with like the lowest expectations, and I came out disappointed. I came out upset. I felt betrayed. And I'm not even one of the biggest fans of the show out there. I am a fan of the Last Airbender show, but I'm not. Yeah, it was just it's so disappointing. And I think for me, I think if I have to try to nail down the problem into the simplest way possible, M. Night just shows everything in the worst way possible. Anytime a character would be heroic, the ball's dropped. They don't look heroic. Anytime a character is making a joke, it's not funny. Anytime something cool or exciting happens, it looks ridiculous. Just everything is shown in the worst way possible, and so you get the opposite effect. And one of the scenes that I think is the most realizing of this is it's the Earthbender scene. I know this is kind of a famous, even so bad that it's good scene. I don't think this is a so bad it's good movie. I think this movie is just boring and begs to be turned off. But anyway, this particular scene is this group of airbenders about to break out of captivity, out of their jail, and you see like 10 or 15 airbenders, like they do this ceremonial, almost ritualistic, like karate, sequence of moves, and it really, the tension just goes from, like, the tension ramps up, and you're wondering what are they going to do, and then they shoot this little pebble and it knocks this dude over in the chest, and the guy just falls over, and it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. This movie is so frustrating. I have trouble even talking about it, right? For a long time I used to say it was my least favorite movie ever. Now it's not. I would give that to the Michael Bay Transformers movies. We're not here to talk about that. I just mean that I do think I've seen worse movies than The Last Airbender, but it's pretty bad. I would not recommend anyone watch this movie. And I've seen it like 4 times, man. I saw it in theaters. I rewatched it by myself thinking that maybe I missed something. And then I watched it at least with 2 other friends. So I may have seen it another time in there and just forgot, just from sheer trauma. But don't watch this movie. I do not recommend it at all. In fact, I recommend avoiding it. And that'll conclude that movie. If I have to give it one compliment, because I try to find the good. When I go into these movies, I want to like them, or I want to find the things that I do like and try to defend those. Right. For something that I do like, 2 things I do like in this movie, I think the costumes look cool. Some of the costumes look good. Unfortunately, most of the movie looks like a high school play, but some of the costumes look cool. And I like Dev Patel as Zuko. Dev Patel is a really good actor who I always like seeing him in things. He always seems to bring life to the movie he's in. And this would be just a lifeless movie without him. So good on you, Dev. So that'll conclude The Last Airbender. We'll go on to movie number 2. We're going to stay in F tier. We're not going to be in here too long, but we've got a few of them to go through. What do you think my next least favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie is? Do you think it's The Happening? Do you think it's, what about Signs? Do you think it's Signs? Just kidding. It's none of those. It's actually old. I can't stand this movie. This movie is, I tried to watch it a few times, I think twice, 2 or 3 times at night, and I fell asleep because it's so boring. I can't stand this movie. The first 10% is funny because it's so weird, and the last 10% is cool because it's actually legitimately interesting. But the bulk of this movie is so stupid. And I feel like I look at it like a failed art film, right? I feel like M. Night Shyamalan was trying to make The Shining on the beach, but he put jokes in it. And I feel like that amalgamation just doesn't add right. And when I say The Shining, I mean a small group of characters experience a descent into madness. They start hallucinating and, maybe start becoming bad guys, some of them. So you have that kind of narrative, but it's on a beach. So rather than being in a snowy hotel in the winter, this is summertime in the beach, or on the beach. So opposite setting. And I think you could pull a Shining on the beach, but the movie it felt confused to me because it keeps showing these scenes that I think the movie thinks are funny, but for me, it really interrupts the thriller momentum of the show. It just felt like a confused boring, unfunny, and unthrilling thriller. I just wanted to turn this movie off. I had to watch it in the daytime just to stay awake, and it was just so annoying. I don't want to watch this movie. I didn't say this before, I had meant to, but a good way for you to read my tier list is um, the F tiers are movies that if we have to watch a movie, right? If you're saying, hey Chet, which M Night movie should we watch? The F tiers are the movies I'm going to say, please, 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 let's not watch one of these movies. Let's go with one of the other movies. These are the movies I'm going to pretty much beg you not to watch, right? So that's just to give you a perspective. So this movie I don't like. The last 10% is interesting. How it ends is interesting. It almost redeems it, and I've kind of wondered, does it bring it to D tier? But I really don't want to watch this movie again. And that's what is causing me to put it in F tier. Okay, so we got one more F tier, then we're moving out of here. M. Night just has a small group of movies that I don't really like that much. This next one, I don't know how everyone else is going to feel about it, but I'm going with After Earth at the top of F tier. I, in one way, I think this movie is, it's just a very, very boring and an unrewarding sci-fi and adventure movie. I don't entirely blame M. Night for this movie because I see it mostly as a project for Will Smith to work as a resume builder for Jaden Smith, and I feel like the bulk of the problem is the script and the story. But the actual directing, the movie making, I think is solid. I'm mostly talking about the camera work and how M. Night is showing the characters and showing the material, because I think for the most part, that's what actually legitimizes the script. The script is so weak and barren. There's almost nothing that is even going on. And M. Night actually, his directing makes it feel like he makes the movie work in a way, but that's about it. Just because the movie works doesn't mean I'm going to give it a passing grade. If it's not worth my time or your time, I'm going to put it in F. And that's basically this, right? So when you watch a fantasy or a sci-fi adventure film, or even I think video games are another good comparison, your character, the main character, should acquire a set of skills, or become better. You should see them overcome their flaws before they confront their final challenge. I guess you could even think of this, a comparison I thought would be Star Wars, right? You see the Jedis, and they maybe have to, they'll use their lightsaber skills, their force powers to, fight the boss at the end, whatever that is. But I guess what I'm saying, in this movie, Jaden doesn't learn any skills. He only learns one. You wait the whole movie, right? Because the whole movie is them waiting to get rescued off the planet. Jaden has to go find a beacon. While he's going to find this beacon, he has to traverse the planet and he avoids some animals. He faints like 6 times. It's very confusing and kind of just disappointing. Like, how many times is going to happen? But you don't see Jaden do anything cool, right? When I'm going, I think what would have made me like this movie is if you see Jaden get some cool powers. He gets a cool weapon. He does something cool. None of that. You don't get anything exciting. So I feel it's very unrewarding. Jaden only gets one power, and it's the power to not feel fear, which on paper sounds good. However, when you're watching this play out in a movie, having a lack of emotion just makes the character look bored. And so for the most climactic scene of the whole movie, Jaden's looking bored as he's fighting the monster because he doesn't feel anything. And so it's the power of not feeling fear, I think, doesn't translate into a really cool movie superpower. I would want to see, I'd rather see Yoda fight with his lightsaber than just Jaden feeling no fear. When I'm talking about what are cooler, I'd want to see something exciting, and it's not the power that Jaden gets is not exciting. So and then once he just defeats the boss, the movie's over. So it feels like you waited the whole movie for him to not feel fear, which is just him being bored, or at least he looks bored. Okay, I know he beats the monster, but he looks bored. It makes it less climactic. and then the movie's over. So you don't, it's so unrewarding, and I feel like there's no reason to watch this movie, and if you do, you'd just be bored, and then you'd say, wait, it's over? We just finished the first chapter. Jaden just got his power. Did Harry Potter end when Harry got his wand? No. Like, what the fuck? It's stupid. So anyway, I just have some gripes with this movie, but we're moving. The good news is we're moving out of F tier, so we're going into the D tier now. We're not going to be in here too long. There's only a couple of them. I'm going to give you a quick second to guess them, and your second's over. We're going with Wide Awake. This is M. Night's second movie. This is it's kind of a weird one because it's just about it's M. Night's first attempt at a family film. It's about a very polite Catholic boy who has trouble seeing God. He goes to a Catholic school and everyone else is experiencing God, and this boy just does not see or experience God. And so the movie is about him having some cute, interactions with other people. There's some cute family kid line movies in here, lines for a kid movie in here. But it's just, the movie just is, it's not a bad movie, but I don't think there's very much reason for you to watch it. It's kind of a boring family movie. And if you're going to have a family movie, you got to have, there's got to be some excitement, there's got to be some passion to it. And I didn't really get that from this movie. This is a movie, and this is probably going to come up in some of the later M. Night movies too, but this one, obviously the subject of faith is here. And, when I'm watching a movie where faith is the subject, I want there to be more conflict. And this kid doesn't really experience any conflict of like having his faith questions, like, is there actually a God? And, are we alone on this planet? Like, he doesn't go through anything like that. And so there's no actual conflict in there to really get caught into. And so it's just kind of an okay movie. Nothing's really questioned. And then, spoilers, by the end of the movie, he says, I'm wide awake, I see God. And so I think it's almost okay, right? But it's better, it's closer to C than F. But there's nothing, I feel like I have no reason to put it in C. There's no reason to put it in F, but there's no reason to put it in C. And if we're going to give you passing grades, you got to start doing something good. You can't just be a working movie, okay? You can't just be a functionally working movie. That's probably going to put you, to D or F tier, like in this case. Now we'll get one more D tier movie here. I'm going to go, you've had your chance to guess, so don't think you've missed anything. We're going to go with The Happening. The Happening. I know this one's pretty low rated on IMDb. I don't think this movie is necessarily that bad. It's not that good. There's some cool stuff in it, though. There is some defendable things in this movie. Unfortunately, it's brought down by quite a bit of stupid scenes too. There is just a couple of stupid scenes in the movie, and Mark Wahlberg's character is impossible to take seriously. He's too much of it's so goofy. But the movie, there is some legitimately thriller scenes in the movie where the scenes that I'm thinking of, I think it's well crafted when you have these people talking and then everyone around them is just frozen. There's some good nightmare situations in this movie that I think M. Night was onto something, but the whole thing was kind of executed messy. And this is still around the same time where this is the weird era of M. Night. This is The Happening came out in 2008. Last Airbender was 2010, and then After Earth was 2011 or 12. So that 2008 through 12 period for M. Night was probably my least favorite of the periods, and that's why these movies are in here. But The Happening, I don't like this movie a whole lot, right? I don't want to watch this movie, but I don't hate this movie like it can sort of get. I just think it's dumb. It has some funny parts, it has some thrilling parts in it. It's just, its potential is unfortunately cut in half, or just or more, because of just there's stupid scenes in this movie that are just, it's gonna seriously take you out of the movie. So if you can't handle that, you know, you might even hate this movie more. You may be an F. It may be an F for you, and I wouldn't fight you on that. You know, I'm not going to go out of my way to defend The Happening. I'm going to go out of my way to defend the B through S movies. Okay, so you know, I don't care if you hate The Happening. And now we are moving out of D tier. We are into C tier. So see you later, D tier. We're gonna go with our first C tier movie. What do you think the first C tier movie is? I just have to look through here, making sure. I'm gonna tell you though, we're gonna be in C tier for a little bit. Okay, we got some movies for this one. My first C tier movie is, oh my gosh, my tier list just freaked out. My first C tier movie is Praying with Anger. This is M. Night Shyamalan's first movie from 1992, if I'm remembering right. Yeah, it's okay. It's pretty good. It feels a lot like a TV movie. I didn't mind it. It wasn't a whole lot of exciting parts. It was kind of silly, but it showed a lot of directorial like prowess, a lot of directorial potential, you know, where you could tell M. Night was like really, there's so much effort in this movie. There's a lot of effort, and the directing is just, you could tell he's talented, right? You can tell that he's on to something. He's going to make good movies. So that was cool to see. What the story is about is this American-born Indian man played by M. Night Shyamalan, who goes as in a foreign exchange type program. He goes back to India to rediscover his roots, and he goes to school there, and he has a bit of a culture clash with his American heritage and his Indian heritage there. And so the movie's mostly about that. Why I like it, why I have it in C tier, is because you get some actual, by the end of the movie, you get some of the craziest M. Night scenes I've ever seen in any of his movies. And it makes me want to put the movie higher. Unfortunately, I just think the whole movie's kind of okay. And also, the movie has no official distribution. So if you're going to want to watch it, you have to watch it on like a pirated copy. You could go to YouTube and also watch it for free. That's how I watched it. This does, you know, it's not the best video quality, so that's just going to affect some, you know, viewing too. But it's okay. If you go into this movie, I think you're not going to have a bad time. I think you're going to see some cool sequences, you know, some interesting sequences in the movie. As I'm trying to go through this, I'm trying not to have any at least much spoilers. You know, if I have spoilers, I might try and talk about specific things, but I'm not here to spoil the whole movie. But Praying with Anger, I liked more than I thought. Okay, and now for our next C tier movie. You've had a moment to guess here. This one is a frustrating one for me, but I'm going to go with The Village. The Village is a movie that I both really like and really dislike things about this movie. So, what do I like in The Village? I like the Village conspiracy of people. Kind of spoilers for this one. The Village conspiracy. I like the pig monsters. You know, the monster costumes that they have. I like that. What I don't like, mostly if I had to be, I'm trying to be brief, right? What I don't like is that the movie villainizes the mentally handicapped person at the end, who has absolutely no reason to put on the costume and to try and attack his friend by the end of the movie. That part was so bizarre to me. And and yes, I'm basically just upset about that part, because it feels like a serious story misstep, because the whole village was suppressing this conspiracy that there are no monsters. They were just using it as a Scooby-Doo villain tactic to, you know, intimidate the younger generation to not leave the village. But for me, the answer's simple. Like, once the main character, the woman, I can't remember her name, it's played by Bryce Dallas Howard, once she goes into the woods, you know, just have the fantasy creature that attacks her be an actual creature. You know, you don't even have to explain anything there. She just has to use her, you know, the clues or the information from the village conspiracy to beat the monster. And then she could have got to I would have liked that a lot more. I guess I just get really, really upset or offended that the mentally handicapped guy puts on the costume and becomes an attacker at the end. It just seems like there's no motivation for it, and almost anti motivation. It ruins the for me. It interrupts and ruins the rest of the story. But I actually like the movie quite a bit, and I would be more of a defender if there wasn't for I guess pretty much that point. So it just makes me seriously not want to watch the movie. There's some parts of the movie that I think could be a little better too. It's not the most exciting movie, but I'm fine. I would be fine with it being this like Scooby Doo villain movie. I just wish that the twist was more that there was some realism to the fantasy. You know, that would have been cool. So that would have made me probably give it an A. Okay, and now for our next C tier movie here. Got kind of another weird one. This is one that I didn't watch until this year, actually, but I'm going with. Should I do it? We'll do Lady in the Water. I think Lady in the Water was okay. I think this one was it was better than I thought it was going to be. I thought this movie was kind of almost a Pan's Labyrinth like movie, and it's not. It's not a fantasy horror movie at all. It is a comedy fantasy. It's pretty ridiculous, and that's probably why I liked it. There's some cringe humor in here, which M. Night is apparently a fan of cringe humor. He likes to play cringy humor scenes in the movie and in his movies. And this movie is, I just thought it was funnier than I expected, right? I thought it was going to be serious, and it wasn't. It was a more lighthearted fantasy, and I think it almost felt like a parody of fantasy movies, like making fun of them. But nothing was on point enough for it to be actual parody, and it just ends up coming off as this sort of confused but goofy fantasy movie. And I just thought it was funny. I laughed quite a bit during it, but at the same time, it's not that great of a movie. One scene that I really liked is where there's a little kid here, and he has to decipher messages from the other world, the fantasy world, and to decipher messages, he's the interpreter. He opens up the pantry in his kitchen, and he's deciphering this fantasy message from the sides of cereal boxes. And it was so funny to me. I was actually laughing out loud because it was really stupid, but it was stupid in a funny way. So I liked it, but at the same time, it's this is not a great movie at all. It's a little confused, but I think it was kind of funny. My biggest problem with it is how many scenes there are of Bryce Dallas Howard talking to, or the lady from the water talking to the main male character naked. There's like 2 or 3 scenes where she's just has no clothes on and she's talking to him. And I think it was for a style of humor that I used to see a long time ago, where there'd be like a younger boy and adolescent boy who something happens to this adult female character, and her an explosion happens and her clothes get blown up, and then you have the boy frozen in horror as he sees this naked woman for the first time. I think it was playing on this kind of humor, but it does it so many times. It's repetitive, and it just becomes awkward in the movie. So I think if that wasn't in the movie, it would be, for me, in my experience, it would be less awkward and just more of a lighthearted comedy fantasy. So that's what would have made me like it more. Moving on to my next one. You've had a lot of time to guess the C tier movies. That's right, we're still here. I'm going to go with Glass. We're going to go Glass. Glass is the third movie of the Unbreakable movie trilogy. I think it's called like 52nd Street trilogy. I can't remember the name. It's the final one. I actually didn't watch this movie until this year, 2024. I put off watching this movie for a long time because I like Unbreakable and Split quite a bit. You can tell because they're not listed yet. And I didn't want to ruin them with, an awkward, unnecessary third movie. And this movie was not as bad as I thought it was going to be. There's some cool things and interesting things in the movie. It has some technical or story flaws that kind of bothered me, but at the same time, it didn't bother me that much. One of the biggest ones is the character Kevin. He's kept in this facility where the lights will flash at him if he tries to escape. And it just felt like he should have pulled his shirt over his eyes or covered his eyes. It felt like he didn't try all of his options to escape. He just kept running into the lights. The lights would flash at him, and he never once, you never see the character cover his eyes. And it just felt like that's what he would need to do. And, so I would say there's a couple things in there that make the movie kind of weaker, the story weak, but at the same time, there's still some really good scenes in this movie. So I think this movie was better than I thought it was going to be. But at the same time, it's not B tier. Okay, and now we got one more movie for C tier. Our last C tier movie. Do you want to take a guess at what is king of C tier? What is king of C tier? It is Knock at the Cabin. I'm going Knock at the Cabin as top of C tier. This movie, I think, is pretty good, but it's also not not amazing too. I thought it was much more engaging than I thought it was going to be. In terms of finding out, because basically there's these gay couple with their daughter having like a vacation in the mountains. These people acting as the four horsemen of the apocalypse come to the mountains, come to their cabin in the mountains, and basically they are forcing this gay couple or the kid to, one of them has to die. They have to kill each other. One of them has to die in a sacrificial way to prevent the apocalypse. And the movie does a pretty good job of having a back and forth of you figuring out, what's real, who's the villain, what's going on. And that was fun. I really like mystery movies with engagement. I think the movie ultimately just doesn't add up to a whole lot. And that's what would have, if there was a more poignant moral message, I probably would have rated this higher, because I actually like this movie more than I thought I was going to. It was pretty good. I also wish that there was a bit more, I know it's more of a thriller movie than a horror movie, but I wish there was like one or two kind of scary parts to like, that just M. Night didn't hold back at. Because some movies M. Night doesn't hold back on, and he'll like throw this punch that's just like, whoa, where'd that come from, dude? And he doesn't really do that in this movie, at least not that I remember. There's still some sad stuff in the movie, but nothing that I would say goes into the realm of trauma, which he does pull into in some of his other movies. So Knock at the Cabin, I like quite a bit. And I'd even be happy to rewatch this one, but at the same time, I'm not going to go out of my way to rewatch this one. So I'm happy with where I'm placing it. I feel like it's a good separator for at least my view of the M. Night movies. But that will conclude the C tier. So finally, we're moving out of B tier. C tier is going to be the tier with the most movies, and you can make a case. Does this mean I think M. Night is a C tier director? And honestly, he's hard to place just because his movies cover such a wide range. I think a lot of the movies, are C tier, but we're going to get into the redeeming ones. We've got some really good ones that I'm happy to defend here. All right, so it's time. It's my time to shine now. We've gone through the weeds. So let's go to the good movies. We're going to B tier. What do you think is the bottomest B tier? Which one? I'll tell you right now. It is Trap. Trap, the newest one from 2024. This movie's got some kind of mixed reviews. Part of me is kind of mixed on it, but I do really like this movie. I think oh my gosh, what is his name? Josh Hartnett is really good as the psycho dad. He's probably my favorite part of the movie. And where the movie is really fun is watching him trying to escape the concert and balance being a good dad too, because it's fun to see him juggle that. I do wish there was some more creative efforts to basically escape the trap. It is fun. It is fun to see. The movie just it goes for a switch towards the end that doesn't completely work for me. It's still good, and I still really like the movie. And basically, I've watched this movie a few times, and I just have fun with it. I think it's a fun. It's not great. And I also want to say, I think when people watch movies too, um, they expect a level of realism that's, uh, I don't want to say can't be done. It obviously can be done. We're watching a movie. I'm not reading when I watch this movie. If anyone's going to dispute why I have this movie so high, it's because when I'm watching a crime movie, I'm not really expecting, or any movie. If I'm watching a movie, I'm not expecting a high degree of realism. I'm assuming that I'm watching a fiction piece, right? And this movie does feel like crime fiction, but so do many other things, like the show Criminal Minds. You know, there's so much other crime fiction. I'm only going to care about super realism if it's a documentary, or if that might be the actual point of the movie. If it is like a historical drama, and then someone starts flying. If Abraham Lincoln started flying, that'd be stupid, right? So we're not gonna have Abraham Lincoln shoot fireballs if we're having an Abraham Lincoln movie. That's where I would start to discuss the realism. But when it's this, I just consider it fiction. I just I grant the movie a lot of a lot of grounds to do what it wants to. I just wanted to see it do something cool. Some of the traps and the tricks in here aren't that clever, and that's might even be my biggest complaint, is that I want to see more interesting traps. It almost felt like M. Night had the premise of this idea, and then he couldn't think of all of the traps or ways to keep the character in, and maybe he just wanted to change up the movie. But I wanted more Josh Hartnett trying to get out of the concert, which maybe he just wanted to. I think he just wanted to change up the script by the third act, because I think he just thought that if the whole movie is that, it would get redundant. But basically, I like Trap quite a bit. That's why I put it in B tier. I don't think it's great, but I think it's good. I think it is a fun. It's like a fun serial killer movie, as hard as that is to say. But now I can move on to my next movie. I'm going to go with The Visit. I'm going to put The Visit in B tier. I liked this one way more than I thought I was going to. I had heard mixed or kind of bad things on this one, and basically this movie was funnier than I thought, and this movie was more threatening than I thought. I didn't know that the grandparents were going to be as evil or as like crazy. I didn't think the movie was going to be as funny. There is like bad rapping humor scenes in the movie. It's a high degree of it's like cringe humor, basically, right? I like cringe humor. Okay, so if you don't like cringe humor, I can see people saying like, "Oh, that's so cringy. Why is that in the movie?" But that's the joke. You're not supposed to say, "Wow, look how good his rapping is." The joke is that he's, you're supposed to laugh at him because he's rapping so bad. And when you first hear it, you're kind of like, what? It's this kind of it invokes this sense of dread and horror. You're almost in shock of like, what's even happening. It's kind of every time too. It never gets old. I always kind of remember the movie for those bad rap scenes. It's so stupid. Especially it's really funny when he ends the raps too. So I liked The Visit quite a bit. I didn't predict the twist. It was basically, it was scarier than I thought. While not being scary, I just meant more thrilling than I thought, with some surprises. And when I said M. Night doesn't hold back, man, when that kid gets the poopy diaper in his face, that shook me, man. I was like, okay, whoa. That hit me good. So sometimes M. Night just knows how to pull out these sucker punches and just like just do something unexpected. It's like it literally is a movie sucker punch, where you wouldn't expect to get a kid with a poopy diaper in the face watching an M. Night movie. I would not expect it, but you do. So The Village, I think, is good. Do we have another B tier movie? No. That's going to conclude B tier. We're out of B tier, so we're going to be moving on to our A tier movies. These are movies that I love. These are movies that I am happy to rewatch. I've seen them already many times, and I'd be happy to rewatch them again. If you haven't seen them, that's what I would use, ask like, oh, you haven't seen Split or Signs or Unbreakable? Let's turn that on. So uh, now we're in the A tier. You have a moment to think, I guess, my least favorite M. Night movie. Which one is that? That is Split. Split is my I said least favorite, but I meant least favorite A tier movie, right? We're talking about great movies, so it's my least favorite great M. Night movie. That is Split. Split, I think, is pretty great. It kind of sometimes I've made it sit on the fence of A minus to B plus, because sometimes I just think the movie's really good, but why I consider it a great movie is because I love the James McAvoy performance. I think he's really funny. I think he's intimidating. I also like Anya Taylor-Joy a lot in this movie. I think she's interesting, and I've already mentioned before that M. Night pulls out those sucker punches, and he introduces, or at least shows, that M. Night's that Anya Taylor-Joy's character was sexually assaulted, and then she uses this trauma to beat her current kidnapper, and all of that just worked very well for me. I thought all of it made sense for the character, made the character interesting. I thought it made the situation interesting. I thought what would have made me like the movie more, right? What I didn't feel like I get out of the movie is that the movie teases you with the Beast so much, and you get so little of him by the end. But what he is there, I do like. I think the Beast was an exciting part of the movie. It just felt short-lived, and I wanted a little bit more of the Beast. And if you got something, if the Beast did some like really cool shit, this movie maybe could have been S. It could have been top of A, but it solidified its spot in A because I don't have many problems with it. I just want a little bit more of the Beast. That's pretty much it. But I love this movie, so I high recommend for me. Now we will go on to our next movie, which is, what do you think? Oh man, my tears got, oh, I see what happened. My tears got kind of displaced here. So we're going to go with Signs. Signs is in, I'm having a tier list bug, I think. There we go. I'm sorry, I see that it got pinned. My list got pinned. Okay. I'll have to keep that in mind. I just now discovering this tier list technology. I can pin the images. So I like seeing the full tier list, but I guess we'll pin them for now. I see what the point of this is. Heck yeah. Go tiermaker.com. Anyway, Science, what I do, I'm sorry, I messed this all up. How embarrassing. I'm going to put my noob edit over this. How freaking embarrassing. Unbreakable. Unbreakable is my next A movie. I like this one a lot. I don't have problems with it. I think the movie just gets better as it goes along. I think that the movie, this in a way isn't M. Night's strongest movie, because most of the movie, I think, and not most, but while you're watching the movie, you'll have this feeling that, hey, this is a good movie. And it's not until the very, 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 very end with Mr. Glass that I think that feel like I'm watching a great movie. And perhaps it is, I've kind of wrestled with this question, it may even just be the Mr. Glass reveal at the end that moves this movie up to A tier for me. But I love that reveal so much, the whole Mr. Glass. I watched this movie for the Unbreakable like theme, the score, where for Bruce Willis to become his Unbreakable hero, and basically for the Mr. Glass reveal. The Mr. Glass reveal is epic. It's one of my favorite in movie scenes. I love it as just an ultimate movie scene. That's up there with like the Star Wars scenes, the Luke, I am your father. I love the Mr. Glass reveal. So with Star Wars, those movies, I put them in the same tier, in A tier. So I really value them in the same way, where you get these legendary scenes. That's at least my opinion. So Unbreakable, I think, is good, and then gets really good, and then gets great, and then it ends on its sharpest, its strongest note, and then it almost wants you to rewatch it again. And so, I love Unbreakable. which now we're down to the final two. Oh boy, this is grand finals, right? We're in grand finals here. So, which is, for me, it's not, there's no contest. I have an answer for this question here. You might be surprised for me to have Signs up here. Well, this is time for me to say that I love Signs. I will die on the Signs fan hill. I love this movie. I grew up with it, you know, and I don't love it just because I grew up with it. I love this movie because I feel like it's misunderstood in a way. I know the movie is about, like on a surface level, is about the aliens with the water and they're being weak to water, and that gets memed on a lot. But that's not what the movie's about, okay? The movie, and this is made clear when you watch the movie, and if you listen to what the characters are saying to the main character, right? What the movie is about is that the main character, Mel Gibson's character, has lost his faith because his wife died unexpected in this car accident. He's lost his faith and he's basically given up on life. He's fallen into nihilism, and people keep talking to him all throughout the movie. Father this, oh Father this, and he keeps saying, "I'm telling you, I'm not a priest anymore." He keeps telling people that, and I'm not a religious person, but what I love watching these types of movies, if they can handle the material right, because when I hear main characters talking about their faith or it's used in this way, I just hear it as affirmation to life, or affirmation to live. It's believing in life and believing in yourself, or will to live. Your will to power. So basically, he has you're watching this man lose his will to power, right? He doesn't have it. His will is gone, and he's trying to find that again. And it takes the aliens, it takes this unexpected, unknown threat that, for him to find what he believes in again. And that's how I see and read the movie. The fact that the aliens are weak to water doesn't even matter. They could be demons. They could be extraterrestrial demons from hell, for all I care. And maybe that they're just allergic to all holy water. All water from Earth is technically holy water, so then it kills them. We don't know anything scientific about the demons. We don't know about the aliens. We don't know anything fantasy about the aliens. So I don't really ponder those questions. And the movie's not so much about the alien attack as it is Mel Gibson's faith and belief in life. And so by the end of the movie, he does. There's a moment where he has to believe that his son is going to make it, right? And then by the end of the movie, he accepts his priesthood again. And like I said, I'm not religious in any way, but if someone is depressed or is has fallen into nihilism, has lost their will, and that's restored through faith, then so be it. I'm always like for life affirmation and life positivity and will to power, so it's I like seeing characters get their will back. And whenever I watch these movies, because there's a good chunk of religious movies or faith-based movies that I like, I always just hear faith in that same way, or I relate to it that way, where it's when someone says that they've lost their faith or their faith is being challenged, it's just belief in life. It's basically do they want to live, or have they fallen into nihilism? Do they hate everything and don't believe in anything anymore? So including morality in themselves and whatnot. So Signs is important for me because it also functionally, Signs works as a family horror movie. By that I mean you can watch this movie with your kids. I've shown my kids this movie; they do like it. The only part that's uncomfortable is that car accident part with the mom. Like that part's sad, but for the most part, it's a good kids horror movie. I love one of my favorite scenes too in this movie is there's a scene where it's Joaquin Phoenix and Mel Gibson. They're like gathering around the TV, and the TV's showing this broadcast of this family. I believe the family is in Mexico, and it's this kid's birthday party, and they're screaming. They can't see outside the window. There's something, and everyone's just gathered around the TV, and the way that you see the alien walk out from behind these bushes in this like creepy walk is so nuts. And so I always remember that scene. And then Joaquin Phoenix is such a good actor. His like visceral, like, oh, he's just so taken aback by it. It's actually like a worrisome scene. That scene just legitimately scared me when I was a kid. It was unbelievable. So yeah, I love science. Like I said, I'm gonna die on the science hill. I will die a science fan. I love this movie. But we're now at the final one. This movie, The Sixth Sense, is basically why I even wanted to make this tier list in a way. So let's do this. Let's place it first, right? Where is Sixth Sense going? It is going in S. Sixth Sense is S tier. Sixth Sense is one of the easiest S's I could ever give to a movie. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. This is not even just a movie that I would say is a great movie, but I would say it's a reason why I love movies so much is movies like The Sixth Sense. If you watch any of my other tier lists, I don't want to spoil those, but I would take The Sixth Sense over any other S that I've given already, any day. So I would take Sixth Sense. I absolutely love this movie. I think it's, when I'm making a tier list, I'm not rating based off of flawlessness, but I do pretty much find this movie flawless. I don't have any problems with this movie, and I think it's just so perfectly directed that it has so much emotional effect. And there's so much for me to talk about with this movie. But in one way, why I like this movie is because when we're watching different forms of art, like an actual picture, right? Like one of these pictures, we're seeing the picture stand there, and pictures are worth 1,000 words for sure. But what I mean is that when you're watching a movie, you get to see like an action, and you get to see the consequences of that action, and then you get to even find out information about perhaps trauma that you didn't even get to experience before or see from those characters. Well, I guess what I'm saying is movies work as a demonstration, and I like how The Sixth Sense is a demonstration of the importance of communication, because that's what I think the movie is actually about. It's not about the dead people. Kind of like Signs, it's easy to point to one thing and say that's what the movie's about. And it, on the surface level, in step one of the onion, that is what the movie's about. It's about the kid that sees dead people. But if you think that's all the movie's about, you've missed something, because the movie, I think, makes clear in its subtext what it's about, and that is that the main boy, Haley Joel Osment, he can't tell his mom that he sees dead people, and because, and this is the hook, right? He believes his mom is going to think he's a freak. He can't handle his mom thinking that he's a freak, so he's scared to talk to her about the ghost problem. So the ghost problem becomes unresolved, that's where eventually that's what Bruce Willis's character comes in to help solve, is help him become comfortable with the ghosts. And this all becomes relevant because this ghost talking ability is then used to end and comfort the family trauma, resolve the family trauma by the end of the movie. And one of my favorite movie scenes ever, which is where Haley Joel Osment and shoot, I'm sorry, I'm gonna like tear up just talking about this, man, because I know it's on the topic of parental ness, and so it's gonna affect me, but it's so emotionally hard to watch. By the end of the movie, where you're watching Haley Joel Osment talk with his mom, and he thinks he's worried that he is worried that she's going to think he's a freak, and he just can't handle it. And she tells him that she doesn't think that. And she asks him questions about her own mom, his grandma. And he uses his ghost talking powers to confirm to his mom that the grandma was proud of her, And so you get to see this, like, in this movie, you get to see this like superpower, right? This is the problem that I had with After Earth. You know, there's not really a cool power there. You get a cool power here, the power to see and to talk to dead people. And then it's used. It's not just, that's the issue, right? It's used to clear up a family communication issue that is so important, because that's their part of their generational trauma, which, you know, I guess I see this a lot because I don't want my own kids to be judged by me. You know, I always felt judged as a kid, and I don't want my kids to feel, you know, judged or scared to talk to me. And so you get these real lessons out of this movie. It's just, it works as a like an intense movie to watch, and you get good morality from this movie, where it's important to, you know, to communicate. And there's no actual bad guy in this movie. That's the movie's so expertly directed. There's almost not even a conflict. Like there's no they don't have to solve the mission by there's no ticking time bomb element. They don't have to solve the mission, you know, by a certain time. It's just Haley Joel Osment's character is seeing dead people, and he can't explain it, and he doesn't know why, and he doesn't know what to do about it. And there's no one that's under attack. The only sort of threat is that in the beginning of the movie, Haley Joel Osment's, I wish I could remember his character's name, just spacing on it, but he has some scratches on his arms. But really, there's no actual, which I think is the ghost, just probably, as far as we know, it's just the ghost saying, help me, you know, and but they're starting to hurt him because they need help so desperately. But what I mean is, no one's under attack in this movie. There's no one that's really in danger. There's this such an intense sense of urgency. It feels like everyone's at the last like moment of their life. The movie just feels so overwhelming and just intense, and it's so expertly directed that I don't want to say the conflict's, you know, faked at all. It's all genuine, but it has so much weight to it, even though there's not anything grandiose going on. But it's just so emotionally heavy, and everyone acts, you know, from Toni Collette to Bruce Willis to Haley Joel Osment, everyone is just perfect, just S tier acting. This movie just is S tier across the board for me. So, you know, I really can't say enough things about this movie. I love this movie just with all my heart. It's so important to me, and I'm thankful for it. So, I think that, you know, I learned something from this movie, and it's just an awesome movie to watch. So for me, it's one of my favorite movies. It's a super S tier. I feel inclined to even not put it in S tier and make a custom tier list above it, but we're going to play by the rules here. We will just, like I said, play by the rules. Is an S tier. This is my M. Night Shyamalan tier list. This is my M. Night Shyamalan scale. Like I said, yours is probably going to be different than this. If you have a different favorite or perception, you know, feel free to comment below. I will, you know, read that. I appreciate any input too. If you have anything constructive to say, if you have any trolls as well, I love trolls. Trolls are fun. So just go ahead and leave your best troll. If it's funny, maybe I'll reply to it. Just make sure it's not boring. Yeah, but that'll conclude, you know, this tier list. If you haven't seen any of the S or A tier movies, you know, go watch them, especially Sixth Sense. Just, you know, be ready for that one. It's heavy. But yeah, that'll conclude this video. I really appreciate your time. I hope you have a great day, and take care. I hope everything goes well for you. Yeah, take care. Goodbye. Chetter out. See you later. Goodbye. I'm catching a ride, you know it's alright. Catching a ride, we're gonna take flight. I miss the bus, too tired.